Riley Freitag, a Fresh Films alum and your host for today's episode where we meet and talk to Dometi Pongo, an award-winning journalist and MTV host. Welcome, Dometi. What is your current role at MTV and what that job looks like on a daily basis?
Okay, so it's kind of multifaceted. So I do a lot of things at MTV Entertainment. So I'm a correspondent for MTV News and the host of Need to Know. Need to Know is our daily show where we break down different phenomena in pop culture. So whether it's Beyonce and Khalees dealing with this songwriting debacle and the credit associated with that and how we can have a larger conversation about songwriting credits and how artists deal with that, all the way to the Inflation Reduction Bill and what that means for climate change activists who've been fighting for some sort of action on climate change. So it kind of runs the gamut, but essentially we take pop culture stories and try to dig below the surface and talk about the issue behind the issue. So that's one bucket. That's Need to Know. That's the main job. Then I host all of our tempos, so our red carpet events, our after shows, everything from VMAs to Grammys coverage on the carpet. And then a little bit outside of the MTV News umbrella, MTV might tap me for different one-off projects or VH1. And I've hosted a few documentaries for the Smithsonian Channel too.
That's awesome. You do a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm curious too, and how you got to where you are today. So can you share a bit with us about how you got to your journey of getting to where you are and what attracted you to the idea of working in media?
Like all great things, it started in Chicago. You know, I started my career even before radio. I was working in corporate America at an entry-level job at Target headquarters straight out of college because my degree isn't in journalism, it's in economics. But I'd always been working in the arts. So quit, moved back home and interned at a radio station on the South Side. It was based on the South Side then called WVON. And working at WVON, as a news anchor, then became news director there. And then I started hosting different community forums and doing a lot of independent reporting and kind of leveraged the work of my mentors and organizations like NABJ to learn best practices as a journalist. And that's when I really figured out this is what I really, really wanted to do. So fast forward a little bit, I moved on to WGN Radio. At one point, I was program director of a internet radio station called WindyCityUnderground.com. And throughout all of that, MTV called me because they were casting for the first episode of True Life Crime, which covered the case involving Kenneka Jenkins. And from there, the relationship just turned into me hosting that pilot, to the show getting greenlit, to me coming on as a correspondent full time.
That's amazing. That's really neat.
Thank you.
And then when you were like wearing your, quote unquote, your journalist hat, what is one of the important things and goals that you have as a storyteller?
I think my biggest goal as a storyteller is making sure the subject or subjects feel heard and seen, and that the people I'm speaking to can receive information in the way that they understand. I think when I first started, a lot of it was about taking facts, regurgitating them, and giving them back. Then, as I became more experienced as a news writer, as a journalist, as a broadcaster, it wasn't about using as many big words as you can use or showing that you have the deepest command over these complex topics. It's, can you explain this to a third grader? If this is playing on TV at home and mom has to explain this very big, scary situation to her kid, can she use your story as a resource? And that's probably my biggest goal as a storyteller, to make the people I'm talking about and the community I'm speaking of feel seen, heard, and understood, and making sure that the news itself is accessible to a wide range of people.
When you're about to interview someone, do you still get like kind of nervous, have any jitters? And if so, how do you combat that?
I was thinking a lot about this because, you know what? I'm not gonna lie, Riley, I always say I don't get nervous, but then I got little habits, little quirks like before showtime, that's probably an amalgamation of nerves. Like I'll be sitting and I have them bring like a whole bunch of bottles of water to my room. 5 minutes goes by and I'm drunk like 7 bottles of water, no exaggeration, like just downing them. And I'm like, I feel fine, but maybe I'm a little, a little on edge. So how I get over nerves though is the best way for me has always been to feel prepared and have the best command of the knowledge, right? Like if you know what you're doing and you have your questions set, you know what you want to ask, you know what you're going into, the nerves dissipate further and further. And then remembering, especially on red carpets where it's like high adrenaline, everything's moving so fast. I often remember that the artist is nervous too, right? Like they want to get things right for your outlet. They want to make sure, like even right now, I want to make sure that I'm giving you, as you're interviewing me, everything that you're asking for. I want to make sure I'm answering the questions well. Did I really describe my journey well enough? Is this going to resonate? So there's a tug and pull. So I think sometimes, so much as interviewers, we're concerned on if we do a good job, but oftentimes the guest is concerned as well. So it's almost like that old trick of picturing everyone in the room naked. What it's really getting at is picturing the person on the other side of the mic as another human being who's going through the same experience with you, and it's all just a conversation. So as long as I feel prepared, and as long as I remember that me and the artist are in service of one another, the nerves usually go away.
And then back in 2016, you started the Pongo Strategy Group. Would you like to explain what that is and what inspired you to start it?
Yeah, it was Pongo Strategy Group actually started as a consulting firm because I didn't even realize that the experiences I was having as a young journalist would be valuable to other people. Here I am just learning the craft, and I would get these emails from community organizations, activist groups who were, say, protesting police brutality. This was around the time when I think Laquan McDonald was a 17-year-old who got killed by Jason Van Dyke. He was shot 16 times. This was around that time. So a lot of cases, it was the case involving Rekia Boyd and Dante Servin. Dante Servin was a off-duty detective who shot into a crowd of people and killed this young girl. So there are a lot of activist groups who wanted to get their stories out there. And they would email and message me and say, how do you write a press release? What is it that I can do to get my story out to outlets? And then you had other groups in neighborhoods like Inglewood, as you know, who's often in the news for negative, but there are a lot of organizations like Rage Inglewood who are doing great work in the community, and they felt like the news wasn't covering the great work that they were doing. So they'll reach out to me to ask for these different resources. And so eventually I said, you know what, I could probably consult with organizations to help tell them how to tell their stories better using multimedia. So I began to offer it as a service for pretty low cost, but I just made that my business. And so I started hosting podcasts for Chicago Urban League. That was my first big contract for Pongo Strategy Group, doing some things for ARP Illinois when they had community events. And then eventually that snowballed into speaking engagements under Pongo Strategy Group, moderating panels and community forums under Pongo Strategy Group. And then I started working at MTV, and I didn't have as much time to devote to my personal business. So since then, I've rebranded it to Pongo Media, and Pongo Media works with organizations to tell better stories through multimedia and sells content to organizations as well.
Yeah, I love how you just use what you know and then put that on to other people so they know, so they could achieve their dreams as well. That's really
important. You explain the company better than me. I'm gonna use that one.
Thank you. And then again, you said everything starts in Chicago, and Fresh Films started in inner city Chicago as well. And where is the need for something, where the need is something positive and creative for teens to do after school, who got out, was increasingly important. How valuable is it for young people to be introduced to the basics of storytelling, like lighting, sound, interviewing, and cameras at such an early age?
I can't even, as you well know too, because you're one of those folks. It's so important because a lot of us, especially in Chicago. Chicago's a big market, but it's not New York or LA where we have so many entertainment companies based in the city. And so sometimes you'll have this gift and you might not have a place to use it, a place to utilize it. You might not have the mentors in that space. I think having these programs has literally saved lives. Like I've worked as part of Pongo Strategy Group, we used to work at the Clio Center. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's called Keep Loving Each Other Center. And it's on 55th in Indiana, I want to say, on the South Side. And some of these students that we would teach, if not for having that as a place to be for several hours during the summer, they can get into all kinds of things that they shouldn't get into. So in that aspect, it's life-saving. But furthermore, just when you're talented and you don't have the connections to, say, an MTV or Viacom, or you don't know anyone who does the thing that you want to do, it's incredibly important. Most of us grow up wanting to be on TV or be hosts, but you might not know that there's a whole job being a gaffer. There's a whole job being a DP. There's a whole job being a grip, being a production assistant, and working your way up to executive producer, the people who actually ideate around these ideas. So being exposed to that early gives the youth a better opportunity to see where their dreams and talents could take them. And it kind of opens us up to a whole world of things we probably didn't even know exist. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I had more programs that I could have been a part of younger, because I would have found my career and my calling soon.
Yeah, being in this program too, like, it's just helped a lot. And as well, because I get to interview people like you, and it's really awesome that programs like this are existing now for teens to really get a head start.
It's also helpful to us who are in our careers, because as I'm recounting my story, I'm relearning the things that I learned back when I first started out, right? And then I'm also expanding my network. So years from now, I'll be able to tap Riley and say, hey, I've got somebody who wants to get into production. Do you have something that you're working on that you can mentor this person with? And we just have this bigger ecosystem of creatives that can support one another. So it's a two-way street for sure.
And again, yeah, you're a really busy guy. So you have the Pongo Strategy, you're interviewing on the red carpet all the time, doing Need to Know, MTV True Life Crime. How do you juggle all that on a daily basis?
Man, I don't even know. I don't know. There was when I went to a media school called it's called the Illinois Media School now. Back then it was the Illinois Center for Broadcasting. Mm-hmm. And there was a meteorologist that I grew up on. His name was Rick DeMaio. And he came and spoke to our class. And he said something that I don't know if it was good advice or not, but I took it. He said, when opportunities come, say yes and figure the rest out later, right? And so I used to, if I had competing opportunities, I used to overthink it, right? How can I be correspondent here? And will I be able to take on the Smithsonian Channel project? How will I work my time out? But the gift of his advice was just saying yes first, and then working out the particulars, because I don't know if you're a spiritual person. I am, and I feel like God brings these opportunities, and when he brings the opportunities, he creates a way for it to actually happen. Now, as far as practically, how do I juggle it all? I have help of a lot of assistants and producers, and I've become more vocal about what I need. So I would say anybody who is seeking this as a career, who wants to juggle multiple projects, find out ways economically where you can hire people who can manage your calendars for you. Before I was able to pay a personal assistant, I had somebody who just wanted to shadow me. And so I said, okay, you can shadow me all day. Here's access to my Gmail. Can you also manage my calendar? In exchange, I'll mentor you and let you follow me to work every day. And so different things like that, having interns help me out. And then just letting producers know what I need to be successful. So telling producers, listen, I'm working on 10 projects right now. This is the outline for how I would like for this project to go. Can you flesh this out for me? And then let's set a time on our calendars for 30 minutes to go back through it, rather than me taking on the whole project myself. So with a lot of help, with a lot of support, and a lot of prayer is how I manage all those projects.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to write that advice down. That was really good. I'm gonna use that a lot. And everything happens for a reason too. So, and like you said, again, just say yes. We see the industry too changing every day, and people are consuming media differently than before, now with phones and social media. Where do you see journalism going in the future, and how will that impact all of us?
I think about this one a lot, and I think my answer depends on the day. Today, if I had a crystal ball, if I could see where journalism is going in the future, we're in this space where I think a lot of traditional and legacy news outlets are seeing that subscription-based models aren't really working. So they're using advertisers to support the revenue aspect of the business. So like, in Chicago, the Tribune, the Sun-Times, these different papers have been sold to different entities. And now if you want to read certain articles, there's a paywall. And if you talk to a lot of these publishers, they're finding that not as many people are subscribing to the paywall. So advertisers fill in the blank. Well, what's the problem with that? Advertisers typically don't want to put their money behind political content or certain content that is too controversial. So you might have more lifestyle stories or more entertainment stories that advertisers are willing to jump on. So for the future of streaming and news content, I think it's going to have to be twofold. They're going to have to be nonprofit organizations that offer grants to diverse organizations and organizations that are invested in telling stories. Like we've seen it with thetribe.com in Chicago, which is supported by several grant programs and sometimes advertising, and all the way to City Bureau and things like the Invisible Institute that does great investigative journalism work. And I think on the opposite end of it, I think you're going to start seeing more companies use social media to advertise their stories. We've been doing it on MTV News. Sometimes you might see us promote a tweet that's one of our news stories in order to get it in front of more eyeballs, and then that attracts them to other things that we're doing. So I think the streaming and advertising models have complicated journalism in a way. I know this is a very long answer. You can tell I've been thinking about it for a minute. So I'm thinking about the future of Pongo Media as well. I think it's complicated the model a little bit, but that's why these programs are so important, so that young people learn the fundamentals of journalism and start digging deep for deeper stories, not just whatever is advertised to them that comes along the timelines. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's what that's kind of how I've been thinking.
No, yeah, I got it. And MTV too, it's evolved like every decade, like from the 80s to now. It's changed, and it's gonna keep changing. MTV and other forms of news, like you said.
It is. It's ever evolving. I think, and just last button on it, I'll give a shorter version of that answer.
Okay.
I think streaming and the media landscape will compel companies to be a lot more adaptable and nimble and more creative in how they put content together, but also how they monetize it and how they get it out to the public. And that's why integrity in journalism is going to be more important than ever, to make sure that stories are told the way they should be told in a format that people can receive.
Yeah, definitely. And then final question, for young storytellers like me who are interested in a career in this media and entertainment industry, what would you say is the most important goals we should have as we begin our journeys?
Man, I think that'll vary from person to person, because one of the most important things to understand when you get into work like this is, why are you doing what you do? So, and I say that because when I was doing True Life Crime, the stories were so deeply emotional that if I lost track of why we were telling these stories or why this mattered, it would be easy to either get disengaged from the story to protect my personal mental health, because it could be so draining and so sad, but also so that you can stay hungry. Because as you get to the next step, you're going to have to come back to your why. And I think that why is going to vary from person to person. So I think the goal for you should be to figure out exactly why do you want to get in this field. Write it down and stick to it. For me, it's telling the stories of those who are underrepresented. So even if we're telling a story about Beyonce and Khalees, I'm going to talk about songwriters who feel like they got the bad end of the deal with contracts because their voices haven't been elevated enough. So every story, I'm kind of looking for that angle, that unique angle to elevate the voices of underrepresented folks. And so that's my personal mission. So I'll say, everybody getting into journalism, locate what your personal mission is and stick to it, and be cool with changing it as your career changes and as it makes sense. But, align yourself with the creator, the universe, whatever your belief system is, and determine what that should be. And always make sure that your stories are rooted in truth.
Thanks for tuning into Fresh Films Industry Insights, a partnership with Paramount's Council for Change initiative. To see more episodes, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to be the ones interviewing or work on a film crew, then join Fresh Films. Just visit freshfilms.org.